You are watching Diversity in Action with Eddie Reyes on IndimateLive.com.
Good morning and welcome to Diversity in Action with Eddie Reyes. My name is Saleda Ramirez and I attend to Grand Prairie Fine Arts Academy. Due to the high demand by its huge audience, Diversity in Action with Eddie Reyes, an award-winning CNN talk radio program, has grown to an extent that it naturally progressed to internet TV and radio, the future media in production. That's why the program partnered with the IndimateLive.com. Diversity in Action with Eddie Reyes has already been recognized and received numerous media awards for its unique approach of disseminating critical and essential business information and for bridging commerce and culture. The program has acquired reputation for delivering timely, meaningful data. Thus, the program has a proven history for being reliable and consequently has become a trustworthy resource for the business community since 2005. If your friends missed today's program, please let them know that it will be rebroadcast every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. and every Thursday morning at 11 a.m., both Central Standard Time. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our host, Ms. Eddie Reyes, and his new co-host, Ms. Rebecca Hicks, and Raquel Olivier.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us, Diversity in Action with Eddie Reyes, my co-host, Ms. Rebecca Hicks. Ms. Raquel Olivier could not make it today. She's out of town, making us some money. Yay! How about that? So, in any event, for those that watch us every day and those that are joining us for the first time, Diversity in Action with Eddie Reyes is a program about arming the small business, minority business, the veteran business owner, the woman business owner with information that they need to grow, enhance, or even start a business. In today's economy, as we all know, with many of us baby boomers retiring, we're looking for other ways to, or maybe perhaps start our own business or other ways to generate income. What should I get into? Should I buy this franchise, or let's start a business from the home? So this program is put together just for you to help you identify opportunities. I know you're seeking, but the whole point is to identify them. Along with starting a business, there are so many elements to thinking about starting a business. So today, in keeping with the history of the program, we bring you great individuals, great experts in their industries to talk about things that, quite frankly, we never think about. Before we get started, I do want to introduce my co-host, Ms. Rebecca Hicks, and I want you to talk a little bit about you. Please tell our audience, especially those that are just tuning in.
Sure, I'm Rebecca Hicks, and I'm the founder and managing partner of Hicks Law Group. We're a boutique law firm. The practice focuses on construction law, business litigation, and creditors' rights. So that's kind of what I'm up to, and I'm very excited about our guest today.
Thank you, Rebecca. Once again, we do bring you information. I know that my background has been with the University of North Texas in recruiting women and minority businesses and help them navigate the procurement process. You know, just how do you sell a widget to the University of North Texas? However, I've had the experience of owning a business, and it was international, and it was a small business. But holy moly, there are some things that come up that you will never think about. And so we are very privileged, and it is a pleasure to have a guest speaker today to talk about something that we never thought about, which is intellectual property. How about that? This is just for you. So, Rebecca, we have Ms. Danica Mathes, who's on the show today. And Rebecca, she's a good dear friend of yours, so please let us know who she is.
Yeah, I'm excited Danica was able to join us today. Danica and I worked together at a law firm called Bell, Nunley & Martin for quite a while. Danica's the attorney with Bell, Nunley & Martin. She specializes her practice, or focuses her practice, on entertainment law, intellectual property, advertising, and new media. Now, Danica has quite a broad range of companies and clients that she represents. Some Fortune 100 companies, including some Oscar-nominated filmmakers, and even some other types of app developers, gaming developers, those types of things. And just to give you a little feel for her level of expertise, wow. She's been recognized as one of the best lawyers in America since 2007. So I think she can really impart some knowledge to us on the intellectual property issues facing small business owners.
Danica, welcome to the
Well,
show.
thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Wow, I'm impressed.
I'm impressed too. Who
We
is this?
only bring you the best, and evidenced by our guest speaker today. So we are going to be talking about intellectual property in particular.
Yes.
And as we were talking before the show, it can be very challenging, and especially just with the terms themselves. But first of all, what is intellectual property? What's the purpose of the law?
Well, intellectual property is rights that people have in various logos or things that they create, like books or movies or pictures. You have intellectual property in internet companies and websites, and intellectual property really affects every single business. So even if you make widgets, you still have intellectual property to protect.
So there are a lot of terms that are thrown out there, and I, for one, of course, I stay confused. But there are terms like trademark and a registered trademark, and then there's copyright. Can you kind of talk about the different? I guess those are considered intellectual property, and then there's certain types, correct? You
Correct.
mind talking about some of those?
Yeah, well, and don't feel bad if you're confused, because I know lawyers who have practiced for years and years, and they still don't know the difference between the terms. They call a logo copyright, and they call the name of a product, they call that a patent or something. So the terms are easy to confuse, so I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Yeah, right.
There are some pretty big differences though between the different intellectual property rights, and we'll try to make it easy for the business owner to realize what might apply to their business and what they should probably keep in mind if they're running a business. But what I like to tell people who are starting a business or who have a business, I like to tell them they should probably perform an intellectual property audit on their company. Now, when most people hear the word audit, they cringe and they think, oh my gosh, the IRS or somebody's going to come in and dig through all my documents. Well, this is a lot less painful than the typical audit, I think, because this is actually finding gems that you already have that you just don't realize have value.
Because sometimes companies can have hidden assets that they don't even know they have in the form of intellectual property, right?
Exactly. So, you want to make sure that, first of all, you're aware of them, and second of all, you're protecting them, and you're making them work for you and getting the most value possible out of these assets that most people don't even think about.
And what are some of I guess, just the general categories of intellectual property? If you can kind of walk us through those general categories, just so we can kind of get a framework of what we're talking
Sure.
about.
Well, the big one most businesses have to deal with is trademarks. And a trademark is any name or slogan or logo, and every business has one of these, obviously. So, these come up a lot of times when you are picking a name for your company or picking a name for your product. And so you want to, you think about how creative the name is, whether or not somebody else is using a similar name for a similar product or service. And, you need to check these things out so you don't get a cease and desist letter at some point from another company saying, by the way, you're using our trademark, and we don't want you to use our trademark because we don't want consumers to think that you and we are related when that's not the case.
So how do you tell if something is a protectable trademark?
That is a good question. Basically, you want to, look for the names of your products or the names of your company or the name that you use to provide your services, and you want to do a search. Even you can do a preliminary one yourself. Go to the trademark office website, uspto.gov, and type in your trademark or your company name or your product name, and see if somebody else already has that registered on the website. You also can do Google searches and other search engine searches to see if somebody else is already using it. Because the way trademark works, you don't actually have to register it to have it protected. There are lots of benefits to registering it, but trademarks actually apply as soon as they are used in commerce. So as soon as you use it to sell a product or provide a service, you have trademark rights, at least in the areas where you're using the trademark.
So, how does that apply? Say, for example, we were a small business and we were Tropical Industries, DBA Tropical Soap Company. So which one Would it apply to Tropical Industries or Tropical DBA Tropical Soap Company?
Well, in your case, it would probably be the DBA name that you would use as a trademark, because that's the name that you would put on the labels on your product.
Okay.
So you would want to, if you didn't have it registered, you'd want to use the TM symbol next to it to let other people know that you claim that as a trademark. So,
Okay.
Somebody doesn't steal it from you. So, because there's a lot of myths out there about how that works. So the more information you can give people about this is protected, or at least I think I have rights in it. And you can only use the circle R symbol when you do have a trademark registration, but you can always use the TM symbol. So I always recommend
So
use
when
that.
you see that little TM beside a name or a symbol or something, that means that person or company is claiming a trademark.
Correct.
And then when you see the little R with the circle around it on a product or a service or beside that logo, that means it's a registered trademark?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And so what are costs associated to something like that?
Well, to file a U.S. trademark, it's $325 per class of goods and services, and there are about 45 classes, so it really depends on what you're making. For example, in your soap company, you'd probably just be selling soap, so you're probably just in one class of goods.
So irregardless of whether it was a natural soap or a soap with...
Sometimes, if there's different, for example, plastic keychains are in one category and metal keychains are in another category. So it can get a little crazy, and that's sometimes, but again, the trademark website is actually pretty helpful, and you can kind of do searches for those things to see if you fall in different categories. And of course, you can always talk to an attorney who knows about this stuff, which I kind of recommend too. Because I say that not just because I'm looking for business, but
That's funny.
I'm saying it because it looks a lot more simple than it really is. There's a lot of nuances in trademark law, and so you really want to make sure you're doing it right the first time.
So would language make any difference? For example, I see, let's say, a term that's already trademarked that is done in English, but say I want to do that in Spanish.
Yes.
Is it the English version protected but not the Spanish version? I can go and claim that?
Potentially. There is something called the doctrine of foreign equivalence. That's a big legal term. That basically means if there's a word that's in another language that's protected, you probably can't get that word in, say, for example, if it's protected in English, you probably can't get the Spanish version of that in the U.S. because people would see it as the same mark, because those languages are
Right.
pretty common here in the U.S. So potentially not. And another thing to realize is that trademarks are geographical. So if you have a U.S. trademark, you're not protected in Mexico or Canada or Europe or something. So you would need to actually register trademarks in other countries if you're doing business there as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so we talked a little bit about trademark. What are the other categories of intellectual property that folks might be worried about or need to protect?
Well, the next big category is copyrights, and that applies to usually creative works, books, movies, pictures, photographs, those types of things, recordings. And the way copyright works is you don't have to register that either, but there are lots of benefits to registering that, and it's a lot less expensive to register a copyright than a trademark, because it's only $35 to register a copyright, actually. But the way copyrights work is this: as soon as you write something down or record it, you actually have copyright protection for that work.
So the
Really?
program today, just because it's being recorded, it'll be copyrighted?
Correct.
Just because?
Correct. So again, there's a lot of copyright myths out there, that if it's online, it's public domain, and so I can use it, and that's not the case, because obviously we're online, but the people who run the show have a copyright in the show, so you can't just take pieces of the show without getting permission to do that.
Yeah, I noticed that in football, in NFL.
Oh yeah, and they are
I'm
vigilant.
just shocked they let me watch it.
Exactly.
I mean,
They're going to
that's-
charge you a license fee to watch it next time.
It's incredible how that works. So while I was at UNT, we did have tons of vendors. I think I've said before, we did business with about 19,000 vendors on a daily basis. But you had those that were obviously more of an entrepreneur than others, and they would come in and they would say, "Well, I got this great idea," and I feel like saying, well, great ideas are a dime a dozen. They come up all the time. Put it on paper and let's see how it works out. But it was almost like someone tells me an idea, they don't do anything with it, and I take that idea and develop it. Mm-hmm. How do I protect that person that gave me the idea? Is there a way to protect themselves from somebody taking their idea and running with it?
Well, unless you have a contract a non-disclosure agreement with someone you're discussing an idea with or a concept, you can't protect ideas.
Okay.
You can only protect the expression of an idea. So the example I usually use is a tornado. For example, there's the movie Twister, which is about a tornado, and there's the movie The Wizard of Oz, which has a tornado that's part of the movie. Obviously, you can use the idea of a tornado in different creative works, and they're not infringing on the other work because they're very different stories. They're not, the same premise at all. But, you can't protect the idea of a tornado, and anybody can do something about a tornado. You just can't recreate the movie Twister or The Wizard of Oz.
Got it.
Because that's the expression about the tornado.
Got it.
So when does it go from an idea to the expression of an idea? Do you have some examples of when does it become protectable? When does that idea become protectable?
Well, it's got to be original and it's got to be creative. So, if you write down a word, you probably can't protect that as a copyright, because it's a word, it doesn't really mean anything. But if you write a book, or even an article or something, there's enough creative expression there that's not just a bunch of facts that aren't protectable. And copyright doesn't allow you to prevent other people from using words. They just prevent you from using substantially similar expression. So, I can use a word that's in a book, I just can't use a chapter of the book or a paragraph in the book without getting permission, potentially.
One of the things I think I discussed with you recently was the idea of, can you protect a title to a book?
Yes.
or
That's a great question. We're going to take a few minutes, take a break here. You're watching Diversity in Action. When we come back, I look forward to the answer to that question. That's a great question. You are watching Diversity in Action with Eddie Reyes on InTheMixLive.com. This is the exciting sound of your money growing. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Well, we procure some of everything. NTTA has full service departments ranging from communications, maintenance department, project delivery. So there are a lot of different commodities. So we definitely encourage all businesses to get registered with us as a vendor. That will be step one, as LaRonda mentioned, on our website, ntta.org. So I don't want to limit the opportunities because we have a range of different departments and a lot of different opportunities. So if you have a business, we do encourage you to get registered with us and find out how you can do business with us.
There's a lot of businesses that would wonder how to do business with Tollway Authority.
We have all of our listings for our current projects on our website, which is ntta.org. Go under procurement, and then you have all of our opportunities there. Always listen to Diversity in Action with Eddie Reyes every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on InTheMixLive.com.
Thank you, ladies, and thank you for watching, and we'll be back. Thank you, and welcome back. I'm glad you didn't go away. Get you a cup of coffee, get it ready. Here we go, because this is a great question that we had. So how do you protect a title?
Well, titles are interesting because if you write one book, you can't protect the title of that book. If you write one song, you can't protect the title of that song. However, if you write a series of books, you can protect that. So for example, the series Whatever for Dummies, you can protect the For Dummies part as a trademark. But if you just write a book called Over the Rainbow, you can't protect that book unless you plan on writing more books with that title as well.
And what we're talking about is the title itself is not protected, right? The book
Correct.
is copyrightable and protected by copyright.
Right. But the title, if it's protectable, would be protected by trademark law.
Now, is there a way to turn that title into more of a brand so that then it becomes protectable?
And that's
How would that work?
That's exactly what's happening because if you write a series of books, then you have a brand you're protecting. If you write one book, it's not really a brand, it's just the title of a book. That's kind of the distinction. I know it doesn't make a ton of sense necessarily, but really, if you're a consumer, there are a lot of songs that have the same title, but they're by different people. But if you're looking for a series of books, then that's, you're recognizing that there's a brand connected with those books. And so you're looking for that, like I said, for the For Dummies series or something. They've built a brand around that book series. So
like
that's
the chicken soup for this.
exactly, that's another
series
example.
as well.
Mhm.
Okay.
So is there a time limit? For example, let's say I wrote a curriculum back in the early 80s. I'm a former Dallas police officer, and I was asked to put a Spanish-speaking program together for the department, and I taught it in the academy, put it together. So that has been over 20 years, obviously 30 years. So is there a time limit that you can go back and say, hey, that's mine, I put it together, so I own it?
Well, again, because as soon as you wrote that down, you had copyrights in that. And the way copyrights work is that if you, as an individual, those copyrights last for your lifetime plus 70 years after your death. So even your family would have rights for 70 years after you pass away in the copyrights. If a company, if an employee creates something and the company would own the copyright, then their rights last from 95 years from publication or 120 years from creation. So again, these rights last for at least 100 years, if not a lot more.
Wow. So then, and don't even know if they use that program anymore, but I was just curious. And then, for example, moving forward, when we had the soap company, we had the formula. We never thought about trademark or copyright. We had the formula, and it's in our safe. Nobody else has it. But still, that's never enough, is it?
That's exactly enough.
It really?
When you're
That's
talking,
another category.
yeah, that's
Good
another category. Look at that.
transition,
It's like you knew almost. It's
Eddie.
crazy.
You did.
Yeah, recipes are unique. They cannot be protected by copyright. Maybe some of the instructions, if they're original enough about how you prepare it, are protectable by copyright. But typically, it's just a statement of facts. It's a bunch of ingredients, and you throw them together, and that's how you get whatever you're making. Coca-Cola is known for this. There's a big urban legend around the formula for Coca-Cola, and it's a trade secret is how that's protected. So the way you protect a trade secret is you keep it secret, and it can be protectable as long as it's still a secret. So if you have a recipe in a restaurant or a recipe in a soap company, the way you want to keep that secret is you want to keep it in a vault potentially. You want to make sure only a few people have access to the formula itself, and you may even want to have your employees and independent contractors or other people you hire to work with you sign a confidentiality agreement to make sure that they can't do anything with that formula.
So if I come up with a great margarita mix, hey.
Don't tell us the secret ingredient.
Keep it a secret. Write a book, Margaritas for Texas. The title is not copyrightable, but the book would be. That's what we've learned so far.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good.
So with technology really elevating and just opening doors, and do you see that in your industry where that's really beginning to grow, and are you having more clients in that particular field?
Oh, definitely. Everything's online, and again, almost every company has a website. So online laws, and most of them are very similar to whether it's online or offline, are applicable to your website. Privacy policies sometimes come into play, especially if you're dealing with children that are 13 years or younger. You have to have a privacy policy in that instance. You don't otherwise in the U.S. But if you're dealing with people in, say, the European Union, they've got very strict privacy laws, so you may need to be careful about that as well. And then usually it's a good idea to have terms of use on your website as well, because you want to make sure that the people using your website are not going to come after you for something that's on the website that they relied on, or that somebody else put on the website that you had no control over, those types of things.
And now, what kind of websites would you be talking about with that type of example? Would they be using the website to perform a function, or just looking at a content?
It really depends. If you are selling something on your website, then you probably want to be a lot more careful than if you were just providing some information on your website. But really, if you're collecting personal information from any of your customers or clients on your website, then you probably need to have a privacy policy just to make them feel comfortable that you're not going to go sell their information. Or if you are going to sell their information, you probably should tell them that you're going to do that. So, at least you're out in the open about it.
So, okay, so when talking about websites and emails, when I used to receive emails, especially at the University of North Texas, it gave me, let's just say, from one of the major retail stores, and they would say, hey, we have this on sale. But it always gave me the option to subscribe or unsubscribe. And so even I, as a small business owner, if I'm selling this widget and I'm working it out of my garage, and I send you an email and say, hey, we have a sale on this widget, Does that law apply for that when I send you that email? Give
Definitely.
you the opportunity to subscribe or unsubscribe?
Definitely, that's very important to make sure that you give your customers and potential customers the option to unsubscribe from your email list, especially if they didn't add themselves by themselves.
Right.
If you sent them an email without them requesting it, basically.
Unsolicited.
Exactly, because there are laws, and one of them is called the Can Spam Act. And that's why the opt-out option or unsubscribe option is very important in those situations.
So that it doesn't matter whether it's a product; it could be a service as well.
Exactly.
And,
I know I know from my law firm, when we send out mass announcements, it always has that unsubscribe option. So I think any kind of large email, business type of email like that, where you've got folks on there that didn't specifically ask to receive that email, you have to have that option.
Or even if they did ask, they may not want to, they may decide that what they're getting from you is not of interest to them, or, their inbox is too full, or they're using a different company. You never know. I mean, these things happen. So they want the option to unsubscribe as well.
True.
well, one of the things I found in my experience was there was a large commercial retailer that once you purchase something from them, they got your URL, they got your email address, which is unfortunately a requirement when you're buying something. They want that field, right? So they want your email. So okay, fine. So I order something, but then I constantly get that. So I kept hitting unsubscribe, unsubscribe, and it wouldn't. So I finally wrote a letter to the president and said, okay, either you're going to honor this or you're not. Well, I didn't know that this major retail subcontracted a company to do that subscribe or unsubscribe. So here you've got this subcontractor, this vendor that's doing this for this major company, and the major company doesn't know that they're not honoring that. So that to me is so important. Is for you, especially a small business, if you are going to do something like that, surely there's got to be companies out there that do that for you, correct?
Correct. No matter what size your business is, usually that's outsourced because it's very technical to make sure that function is available, and I don't know how to do that myself. So our law firm hired somebody to do that for us too. But practically, you're on the hook for that, and that's a law that you need to allow people to unsubscribe. So if your contractor is not doing, not adhering to those regulations, then you want to be aware of it. So you writing the president was probably welcome on his part because he didn't know that was happening.
Oh, I got every VP calling me after that.
There were some meetings about that, I'm sure.
And so, okay, so what we're talking about pretty much kind of protects you in the United States only? Is it, some of the things you brought up, are they global? Will they protect you?
Well, when we're talking about trademarks, that's just a geographic limitation. So when you're talking about trademarks, you're only protected where you actually use them or where you register the marks. Copyrights protect you almost globally because we have a lot of international treaties that protect you in different countries, wherever you create the work. Trade secrets are pretty much global because, again, if it's secret, nobody can know, so that's good. And there's another right we haven't talked about yet, and that's patents. And that's usually relates to inventions. So processes or,
Improvements.
Exactly, improvements on things, or different things that you have invented. For example, you could have a patent on a water bottle, the way it's designed, or those kind of things as well. So that is a right that is also limited to the country that you're registered in, and that's a very weird thing about patents. Unlike these other rights that may exist without having to register something, if you don't register a patent and you don't register it at the right time, you lose those rights.
That's a great subject. We're going to get into that when we come back. You're watching Diversity in Action with Eddie Reyes. Hey, brain freeze. On inthemixlive.com. Thank you so much for watching. Warm up your coffee. Get you another cup of coffee if you like. Don't go away. We'll be right back after these few messages. Thank you for watching.
I have the pleasure of being the superintendent of the greatest school district in the state of Texas. Students can choose to audition for the Fine Arts Academy, where they can participate in 7 different strands of the fine arts in a very rigorous academic environment. Students can choose to apply for DeBisky Career High School, where they can participate and learn in any one of 5 schools within a school to become work ready and college ready. These are just a few of the opportunities that our students and our parents will find in Grand Prairie ISD. Anyone can check out everything we have to offer at www.gpisd.org.
DFW Studio 8. That's where all the artists that you've been here before, you understand it, you've met her, you've seen her, you understand everything that goes on here. And if you don't, you need to check out dfwstudio8.com. Phone number is 469-212-7001. Definitely, my name is Buddha. I am the sound engineer, and you will be dealing with me directly. I hope to see you guys soon. DFW Studio 8. Check us at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everything you can think of. If you're an artist, you're a poet, if you like to do audiobooks, if you're a professional company, anything that it may be, we have all the audio services to offer. dfwstudio8.com.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Lady D, the host of Keeping It Real with Lady D. And I want y'all to remember that my show is all about teen-friendly fun, teen-friendly videos, and teen-friendly gossip and entertainment. And just think, what if teens ruled the world? What would it be like? So, here's a way for y'all to get in contact with me and my show hosts. You guys can go to Twitter and follow us at IDML2012. Also, subscribe to YouTube at In The Mix Live. And go to Facebook and search In The Mix Live also. So, to promote your talent or business, log on to inthemixlive.com and go to our contact page so you guys can get in contact with Lady D and Diamond. See you guys later.
Loose cannon. What's up, everybody? We're back. DFW Studio 8. It's your boy J.O. wrapping up the Loose Cannon album. Everything's being done here. Mixing, mastering, packaging, graphics. This is the place you need to be, people. I'm telling you, from the moment I laid down the verse to the moment that the CD gets into your hands, it's all being done here. DFWstudio8.com. Catch them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the networks. You know where it is.
And welcome back to Diversity in Action with Eddie Reyes on this cloudy Saturday morning. Hope you got your cup of coffee. Rebecca, my co-host, Ms. Hicks. We have wonderful expertise today. I hope you're enjoying it. Ms. Danica Mathes. Again, as I told you last week, look her up on the website, on the internet. My God, how impressive. Thank you very much for taking time out and being on the show today.
Well, thanks again for having me. This is fantastic.
So we were going to talk about patents.
Yes.
What is a patent?
So a patent is actually a right that the government gives you for your invention, and it's protected for up to 20 years. But the thing about patents is you have to file your patent application before you disclose your invention to the world, or you lose your patent rights. And patents, because they're a monopoly basically. You own the right exclusively, and nobody can infringe your patent or use your invention without paying you a license fee. So you can make a lot of money. A really good example of this is in the drug industry.
Yes.
Medications, that's why medications are so expensive, because there's so much research and development that goes into, for example, making a cancer drug or something. That those companies, once they come up with something, can charge premiums for those drugs because they put so much into developing it. The patent really gives them, a time to recoup all that money they've invested. And then once that patent expires, then their invention goes into the public domain, and that's when the generic drugs can be made and the prices go way down. So that's kind of what the purpose of patents is.
And how long, is there a timeline, how long you can keep a patent?
Yeah, a patent is only good for up to 20 years in the U.S.
And that's for any item, any product, any
Yes.
service? So it's 20 years straight?
Yes, if it's something that is protectable by patents. And I do recommend that you see an attorney about patents, because they are very, very, difficult to obtain. It's the way you write out what exactly your invention is. There may be other inventions that you're infringing on, or that you've got to work around to protect your invention. So it's very intricate, and I would definitely recommend speaking with an attorney about that.
So with the onslaught of the weight-losing industry, billions of dollars, and all the drinks that you can drink and make you lose weight, and so if you came up with something, is that a patent? Would that be considered, you patent that's your drink?
You know,
or is that goes under something else?
it really depends. Maybe a formula for a drink is protectable, maybe. But more than likely, it's probably only protectable by trade secret. So again, that's something that you would have to do what is known as a prior art search to see if there's something else that's already been patented that covers what your invention is or your formula is. So again, I can't tell you right now, yes or no, this is a patentable thing. It's really a look at what's already been out there and whether yours is really a novel and unique invention.
What about, for example, so they came out with scissors, but in particular scissors for left-handed people. So would that be protected by?
That may be, and again, it's very tricky because sometimes, making scissors were typically for right-handed people, or they were a lot easier to use for a right-handed person. So they may view making a left-handed scissors as kind of obvious. And so therefore it wouldn't be protectable as a patent. Or they may view it as an improvement on the original patentable subject, and that could be protectable. So again, there's a very fine line between whether it's protectable or not. And again, you have to do a lot of research before you can answer that question.
You know, sometimes you'll run into business owners or different products and things, and you'll hear them say that there's patent pending, or you'll see a product where it says patent pending. What does that mean?
That means that they don't have patent registration yet, but they have filed an application, and the government's looking at it. And it does take the government, they have a lot of patent applications, so it takes them a lot of time. Usually the process, I think, is between 1 to 3 years to get a patent.
Wow.
So.
And are the fees based on the item that you're asking a patent for, or is it just a standard fee?
The fees are a lot more expensive for patents. I'm not exactly sure what the filing fees are, but they are in the thousands of dollars. We usually quote somewhere around $8,000 to file a patent application because they are very intricate, and that includes, I think that's in addition to the filing fees. So
wow.
Again, we're talking about a lot more money when we're talking about patents because it's a lot. There's a lot more that goes into that.
Yeah, those patent applications are scary, Eddie. They're scary looking.
Yeah,
very technical.
Super technical stuff. It is.
But as an engineer, you might appreciate it. So.
Oh yeah, that's true. Especially with the research going on in universities and nanotechnology and all of that. That's golly, just the pace of everything changing so quickly today.
Definitely.
And then if you're putting a patent on it, they must have thought of that maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Correct?
Oh, if not decades ago. I mean, there's so much research that goes into developing medical, advances and technologies and those types of things that you never know how long they were in development. And again, that's why we have patents to protect those really unique inventions that really help our society, so those people are incentivized to make those inventions and help us and get their money back before everybody can use their invention.
Well, one of the things I really wanted to ask you about is, software and development of software is such a big
Good
thing.
point.
A lot of entrepreneurs are really into software development or app development or whatever you want to call it. What are the intellectual property rights that they should be looking out for?
Well, the software is definitely protectable by copyright, so you should file the copyright for sure. It may be protectable by patent as well. So you might want to check into that. And then, of course, the name of the brand that you're selling the software under is protectable as a trademark. So there could be at least 3 different intellectual property rights that you're dealing with.
So the code itself is copyrightable?
Correct. Correct.
Interesting.
So going back to our viewers, which are most of them are small business owners or they're thinking of starting a business, let's talk about just, you mentioned earlier, and we skimmed on it, was auditing your small business and just seeing what you have. What are things that we should be looking for in terms of what is protected, what isn't, or what should be trademarked or copyrighted? So give us some ideas.
Well, now that we've
thoughts.
talked about the different areas of intellectual property rights, you should go back and look at your business, either existing or in the works, and figure out whether you have brands that you need to protect as trademarks. Do you have a product that has a name associated with it or a logo that you use, in your business or on your business cards or your website and those types of things? And you want to look into that and make sure that if you haven't protected it, maybe you want to go ahead and file a trademark application for that. And then you want to go through and see, have your employees developed anything that is really integral to your business that may be protectable by copyright? Have they written articles, or have they developed manuals or training tools, those types of things that could be protectable?
Now, let me ask you this, because I think a lot of business owners would really want to know this. If you are in a business where you have employees that are creating content for you, who owns that and how does that work?
That's a really good question. And, when you're dealing with employees, if they're doing something that's within the scope of their employment, what you hired them to do for their job, then usually the intellectual property created by the employee is actually owned by the company or the employer. However, if you are contracting with an independent contractor, someone who's not an employee of yours, then unless you have something in writing, the independent contractor probably owns the intellectual property unless they assign it to you. And again, that has to be in writing, it has to be a signed agreement. And there's a lot of myths out there about that you feel like if I hired you to do a job for me, even if you don't work for me full time, because I paid you for it, I own it, right? Well, that's not the case all the time.
So does that apply if, say, a small business owner hires a marketing company to maybe write content for a website? Who would own that content?
Well, unless there's an agreement, the marketing company who wrote the content owns that.
Okay, so you just need to be careful about that when you're contracting
Definitely.
with independent contractors.
And that's a really good example. For example, if you have a marketing company create an ad for you, and you decide that you're going to use a different marketing company, unless you own the ad, unless they assigned it to you in a written agreement, then you've got to start fresh with a different company. You can't retool the ad that the first company created with a different company. So, and that's a practical thing that happens all the time, and people are surprised that they can't do anything with the ad that they paid for.
Well, that's very key.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us are at that level where I need a website and don't think about
Right.
how do I, those are really cool, critical tools to know information. What about when you are a one-person company and it just seems like it just rains and you got to do all these things? Any ideas about, I know a lot of that can be found on the internet, but just because you find it doesn't mean it's easily interpreted where you can apply it. So it would be something that they would are there specific like attorneys that only do patents, attorneys that only do copyrights, attorneys that, okay, and as opposed to a large firm or individual attorneys, or how does that work? I'm looking for an attorney to do this.
Well, a lot of times attorneys, if they're with a firm, most of the time they have people that do a lot of different things in that firm. So, for example, I focus on intellectual property, but we also have people at our firm that are in the courtroom fighting battles that our clients have. We have other people who are forming companies for our clients. We have other people that are helping getting citizenship for some of our clients. So, it just depends. If you're dealing with someone who owns a boutique firm like Rebecca, she focuses on one or two or three things probably. Although she also deals with a lot of range of things. So she can tell you, if she can't help you, she can probably point you to somebody who can. So she knows, she can spot the issues that are affecting you and probably tell you, well, you probably should consider this, or you probably should consider this.
And there is now the one thing I would add to that is, as far as patents, for an attorney to do a patent, to prosecute a patent, they have to pass a special bar examination, not just the regular bar examination, but another examination on top of that. So you have to find somebody that really has passed the patent bar before they can prosecute a patent for you.
Correct, and I'm not a patent lawyer, so I don't have a patent license. I'm not registered with the Patent and Trademark Office as a patent lawyer. So, but we have patent lawyers at our firm that do that as well.
Would you like a license? I got them here for sale. Let me ask you this: does citizenship has any play into this? For example, let's say someone who is in the country illegally, and they come up with a great idea, and they want to trademark it, copyright it, patent it. Does citizenship have any effect on that?
And it may. I'm not 100% sure what the laws are, especially with respect to patents and those types of things. Other rights you probably can have without being a citizen, but again, that's something you'd want to consult your attorney with, and that might be something they need to look into.
And the reason I ask that, because there's, as you well know, we hit on that about just recipes. Mm-hmm. Mama at home could come up with a great recipe for whatever, and here you are, and they're maybe not here legally, so how does that work? And so that's just a thought, because often I do run into some of those situations where they got a great idea, but they're kind of scared to move on it. And so where would they find that out? Would that be?
I would talk to an attorney at that point. You may actually want to look on some of the intellectual property websites, like the Copyright Office website or the Patent and Trademark website, and see what they say about citizenship requirements for protection. But really, I think you might want to consult with an attorney in that situation.
And now you have a blog, don't you?
I do have a blog. We haven't addressed that issue on the blog. We might though. But my blog is patent. I have patent on the brain now. It's practicalip.com, and we try to give you tips and things you can implement in your business right now, or things you should think about you may not have.
We're going to take a quick break, but I do want to come back and talk about what you see the future of IP and as it's changing, especially in technology. So maybe you might have some thoughts on how you see maybe crafting or changing a little bit about that, because it's moving so fast. You are watching Diversity in Action with Eddie Reyes on InTheMixLive.com. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll be right back after this message.
Hey everybody, it's your girl Lady D.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Diamond.
What's up? Alright, so we want y'all to get to know us a little bit better. So go to InTheMixLive.com and go to shows and click on Keeping It Real with Lady D. And then you can see us, Lady D, and Diamond.
Yes.
And look at all of our shows.
For real. If you haven't checked them out, go check them out. We got it on and popping up in here.
Yes, we do. Alright, also go to Instagram and search In The Mix Live, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube page at IDML Videos.
Like our page on Facebook at In The Mix Live Radio. We need those likes. And follow us on Twitter at IDML2012.
And to promote your talent or business, log on to InTheMixLive.com and go to our contact page so you can get in contact with the girls.
Yes.
Alright, well, thanks for watching, and watch our show.
Thank you so much for joining us with Danica Mathes as our guest speaker today. We're talking about intellectual property with my co-host Rebecca Hicks. So I did want to talk a little bit too about, we finished up on, we were going into social media. And with all of that moving so fast, and people now are advertising good, better, and different on Facebook and all of those. So you want to touch on that as far as what we just covered, and how is it applicable or not on those particular ways of communication?
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned a little bit having privacy policies in terms of use on websites. Those are very important. And if you do any kind of advertising for your business on social media, especially like Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or those types of things, you need to be very aware of the rules that are on the terms of use for each of those social media sites. Twitter is another example. There's big business, people hold sweepstakes, people hold, do advertisements, people have endorsements, those types of things that you really need to consider. And each of those sites regulates the way you can do that, if you can do that at all, on their site very differently. So you need to be very careful about looking at the terms of use, or your page could be shut down if you're violating those terms of use. So that's very important. And it's just something people don't necessarily think about, because of course it's my page, I can say whatever I want, right? Well, the advertising laws that apply to print ads or broadcast ads apply online as well.
So what would be an example that maybe you've seen where someone's page might get shut down because they've done something inappropriate to business owners?
If you are not, for example, if you have somebody endorsing your business, you have a local celebrity or something, giving shout outs to you on Twitter, if they're not telling people that they are paid by you, or that there's some other relationship, they're part owner of your company or something, then that's violating the endorsement laws and the testimonial laws that the FTC governs. So you need to be very careful about that. You need to use a hashtag and that says paid or ad or sponsored when you're doing those types of things. And that's something that nobody would really think about unless they find out the hard way.
So I need to call and cancel Tony Romo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or at least, make sure he adds a different hashtag.
Rebecca, you had a question? I'm sorry. I was interrupting here.
Oh, no, I don't think you were interrupting. That was my question. I really wanted
Tony
to know.
Romo?
Well, no, I didn't know we were getting an endorsement from Tony Romo. That's awesome.
Fantastic.
Okay, so for our viewers out there, how do they reach you? How do they contact you? Because I know you stirred up a lot of interest, a lot of points of consideration. So what's a good way of reaching you, emailing you, calling you, what time?
Well, I think the
what
web
day?
is probably the easiest to,
Okay.
you can find me at practicalip.com is probably the easiest one to find me on. My law firm's website is bellnunley.com, and that's very difficult to spell, so go to practicalip.com, and that'll be easier to find me.
And so we do want to, again, go back to, for me anyway, a lot of folks out there watching are just thinking of starting a business. So perhaps they should contact you first. This is my idea. Or if it's, especially in technology, so that's something that you would recommend, correct? Always. The two things I know in business, get you an attorney, get your CPA.
Yeah.
Those are, trust me folks, they will save you a lot of headaches. You got some great folks out there that are very giving, like Danica, Rebecca, who are willing to give you advice and guidance, and that's really key and critical, because there's some things that will come up that's not in your budget. You're going to go, oh crap, I wish I would have thought about that. The recommendations, how about franchises? They're pretty much, if you do buy a franchise, I mean, you're pretty much fall within those.
Yeah, if you're
They're-
buying a franchise, you need to meet with an attorney. There's just, I would not do that by myself. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes into that. So I would definitely meet with an attorney. And as you were saying, I think it's always wise to meet with an attorney and maybe a CPA as well before you start a business, just so you can get an idea of the things that you don't even know that you need to know. And there's so much to know out there. And, not every attorney knows everything that's going to apply to your business. But they're probably a lot more likely to tell you things that will at least, trigger some, okay, I need to put this on my list to do. I need to add this to my budget, like you said. Because these things are not inexpensive necessarily, but at the same time, doing it right up front can save you a lot of money and a lot of headache in the long run. Because, if you're infringing on somebody's trademark, and you've printed all these T-shirts and you've printed all these business cards and things, and you get sued for trademark infringement, you have to scrap all that and start from scratch. And that alone is a huge investment that's just down the drain. So, those kinds of, preventative medicine in the law and starting a business, I think, is always the way to go.
Now, well, let me ask you this. Say you are a business owner and you've done your homework. You've protected your trademark, you've registered your copyrights, and you see that someone else is using a very similar, let's say, logo. What do you do then?
Well, that's a really important issue, because as a trademark owner, you have a duty to police your marks. You need to make sure that nobody else is using something similar to your mark, or you could lose your trademark rights. So you actually need to keep your eyes open for other people using the same or similar mark for the same or similar goods or services. I tell people to put out Google alerts, to see what's on Google and, coming in. That's just a simple thing you can do. It's free. You might want to do it on Yahoo as well, and you'll get email updates if the word or the phrase that you have in the alert pop up on the web. So that's a good way to keep
And
track
that's
of
just, you
things.
go to Google and you set up what they call an alert.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the IP issues and agreements and licensees.
Yes.
What have you seen in those? What are the...
There's just a lot of
the
things
issues?
you need to keep in mind if you're entering agreements, or if you need to be entering agreements and you haven't. And you need to look for key words. For example, if you're creating something for somebody and they want to own it, you need to look for words like assign or work for hire or those types of things. And if you are having somebody create something, you want to make sure that those words are in there. So, depending on which side of the canvas you're on, so to speak, you need to make sure that the rights are either being conveyed or being kept by you, depending on the deal.
And same thing applicable for licenses.
Definitely. And sometimes if you want to use, say, a sports team's trademark or a university's trademark or something, you would need to get a license from them to use it on your product or in connection with the services you're providing. So, the rights go both ways. You want to make sure you're protecting and profiting from your intellectual property. And you want to be very careful about not infringing or using other people's intellectual property without their permission. A lot of times people will think if something's on the web, they can just grab a picture and put it on their website. And that's not how it works. You need to get permission for that.
You can't do that?
You can't do that. And another thing I think a lot of small business owners don't realize, a lot of big businesses don't realize sometimes, is that if you have a blog or if you have, people that are contributing information to your site, you need to register yourself as a what's known as a DMCA agent with the Copyright Office. That's the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So that will protect you from third parties posting on your site, and if they have pictures or other things that infringe on people, you're protected for what they post on your site. Not from what you post on your site,
Right.
but from what they post on your site.
That does seem like a very important point
Yeah,
right
no
there.
kidding.
It's very
You're
important.
allowing people to contribute content in any way to
Correct.
a website or blog run by your company.
Correct. And another thing that happens a lot in businesses with technology is the domain name. Who owns it? Who has rights to it? A lot of times, either you will hire a company to register that domain name, and it may be registered to a different company than yours, or one of your employees has it registered under their personal name, and they leave or they get sideways with you, and then you can't access your website. And that could be very important, and it can be a big fight and very expensive. So you want to make sure that your domain name is registered under your company, and that you have access to it, and maybe other people in your company have access to it too, in case you can't get on or somebody leaves or that type of thing.
Where I've seen a lot of that is in a lot of smaller chambers of commerce, because everybody runs on such a tight budget. They forget about those important, and you go to the website and hadn't changed in 3 months, and there's a reason why.
Right.
And it's very, very key and critical, not only just for small business owners, but even the nonprofit arena. Last few minutes, one more time, how do we contact you?
You can find me online at practicalib.com or bellnunley.com.
Thank you. Shout outs today?
Looking forward to the RHCA Luna Awards and Women's Conference next week on the 31st. On Halloween, I'll be celebrating with the RHCA at the Luna Awards, so hopefully we'll see you all there.
We'll be there interviewing as well.
We will.
Yeah, the press is coming. I have shout outs to my dear two sisters, Dolores Moreno and Irene Arriaga, and other important people in my family, Lynn Reyes. Hi, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And of course, the Nonprofit Volunteers of America, Texas. They are a great nonprofit that address folks that are really underserved. Thank you so much. Next week, it's an exciting week. We have the National Association of Women in Construction. Now, you're kind of familiar with that organization,
I am.
aren't you?
I'm a past president. Several years back, I served as the president of the Dallas chapter, so I'm looking forward to talking with our friends at NAWIC.
Wow. So you might want to give us a little lead into what exactly does that organization does? Because you do have several construction associations, right?
Sure. And NAWIC is it's a construction organization that the target is to help women advance in the construction industry. So the members are a broad range of women. Some are business owners, they own construction companies, supply houses, those types of things, or else they're in supporting roles at larger construction companies. But the goal is to educate and help advance women in the construction industry.
And brings us back to the event we're talking about on Thursday with the Regional Association of Hispanic Contractors. It's the Luna Awards. And they are celebrating and recognizing women in construction in various categories. Is that correct?
That's right. And I'm a past Luna Award winner as well. So.
That's right. There you are. She is phenomenal.
She is. She's kind of a big deal.
Hey, she's got you as a friend. That's very impressive. Again, you're watching Diversity in Action. I want to thank y'all so much for watching this week. I hope that you can take this information and learn from it. Please feel free to contact Danica, where she said she can be contacted. A lot of fun, a lot of interest. I want to thank all of you that sends us emails and let us know what type of job we're doing. We appreciate your comments. It is exciting. This program, once again, is about arming you with information that you're going to need. And it's all free, and you don't have to drive anywhere. Here we are every Saturday morning. And if you miss this show, please be sure and tell your friends that we also rebroadcast the program on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time and Thursday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we do archive these programs for a whole month. It is a lot of fun. Our last show for the year will be December 14th. We've got some great guest speakers until then. On Veterans Day, we've got some veterans from the movie Black Hawk Down, some actually U.S. Rangers that were there as our guest speakers. On November, I want to say the 9th, we have the curator from the 6th Floor Museum as our guest speaker. It is the 50th anniversary of JFK. So the whole term, the name of the program is Diversity in Action. It is about that. We do focus in business. But there are other things in life as well that are equally important. Next year, we're planning a state of economic development for minority and women-owned businesses, where we plan to bring both Dallas and Fort Worth together in their leadership, and let's talk about what we can do to improve the state of economic development for minority and women business owners. We want to thank you so much for watching today. Please send us your ideas and folks that you'd like to hear and interview for us to interview. We'd love to hear from you. So thank you so much. You are watching Diversity in Action on In the Mix Live. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much. See you then. Bye-bye.
For watching Diversity in Action with Eddie Reyes on InTheMixLive.com.
Watch Diversity in Action with Eddie Reyes on InTheMixLive.com every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Thank you for your consideration of perhaps being a sponsor, and we look forward to hearing from you. See you next time. Bye-bye.